We meet John, a hardworking accountant in his late 20s who saved up $10,000 over the past years. He's always dreamed of earning a passive income through investing, but the fear of the unknown has always held him back. But John has been bombarded with a couple of challenges recently. He's having great trouble repaying his looming debt and paying rent, and the sad part, his emergency fund hasn't been steady. But with his $10,000 in savings, John quickly realizes that he must start earning a passive income that can help him resolve some of his troubles until he completely frees himself from the impending disaster. John decides to start investing in dividends, but he has only two options: to invest using low-risk, low-reward methods, or indulge in high-risk, high-reward strategies, which we're going to demonstrate in this video. We'll show John 7 strategies, starting with the most common and safest ones, going all the way to the riskiest and most rewarding approach. Watch till the end, because we'll show you how John can make quick money to fund his long-awaited trip to Switzerland with the riskiest strategy at the end. Number 1. Dividend-paying stocks. You see, dividend investing is a method for investing in stocks that gives consistent cash payouts to shareholders as a reward for owning their stock. And if you invest in companies that have a long history of paying and increasing their dividends, you can potentially reap the benefits for years to come. Take the S&P 500, for example, which is a stock market index that tracks the performance of 500 large-cap companies in the U.S. The S&P 500 has an average dividend yield of around 1.5 to 2%. While the percentage yield sounds low, John can invest directly in some dividend aristocrats listed in the index that have a history of paying and increasing dividends, such as Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, and Procter & Gamble. Now, Coca-Cola, for instance, currently has a dividend yield of 2.94% and has increased its dividend for 58 consecutive years. Let's say John decides to invest $10,000 in Coca-Cola, which, as I mentioned, currently has an annual dividend yield of 2.94%. This means John would receive roughly $10,000 times 2.94%, which equals $294 annually in dividend income. While this amount sounds pretty small at first, John can contribute to his emergency fund over the years. Sadly, John discovers he has looming debt, and as the interest rate continues to hike, he has to earn extra money to repay his debt quickly. Here are the possibilities where he can repay his debt faster. Number 2. Dow Jones Dividend Aristocrats. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is another stock market index that tracks the performance of 30 large-cap companies in the U.S. The Dow Jones has a list of dividend aristocrats, which are companies that increased their dividends for at least 25 consecutive years. For example, Johnson & Johnson is a Dow Jones dividend aristocrat that currently has a dividend yield of around 2.4%. If John invested $10,000 in Johnson & Johnson today, he would receive approximately $10,000 times 2.4%, which equals $240 per year in dividends, which he can channel into debt repayment. Number 3. Dividend-focused ETFs. Investing in ETFs that focus on dividend-paying stocks can serve as a safe way for John to make extra income. For example, the Invesco S&P 500 High Dividend Low Volatility ETF, also known as SPHD, tracks the performance of 50 high dividend yielding stocks in the S&P 500 with low volatility. As of April 2023, SPHD has an annual dividend yield of around 4.06%. If John invested $10,000 in it, he would receive around $10,000 times 4.06%, which is $406 per year in dividends, which he can redirect to his retirement savings. With the next method, we're going to show you how John can make money to contribute to his 401k instead of relying entirely on his salary deductions. As if that's not enough, the next strategy can help John find some cash to buy an online course so he can get a pay raise at work if the certification turns out great. Number 4. Sector ETFs. Now, John can invest in ETFs that focus on specific sectors that tend to have higher dividend yields, such as real estate, utilities, and consumer staples. For example, the Vanguard Real Estate ETF, or VNQ, tracks the performance of the MSCI US REIT Index, which consists of companies that invest in real estate. And here's the thing, guys, investing in sector ETFs can provide an opportunity for investors to earn dividend income while gaining exposure to industries that are expected to perform well in the current market conditions. Now, let's take a look at how John can make some money off the VNQ dividend payout with a $10,000 investment. As of April this year, the VNQ had a dividend yield of around 4.15%. If John invested $10,000 in this ETF, he would receive roughly $10,000 times 4.15%, which equals $415 per year in dividends. He can channel this amount to acquire new skills that can provide a professional advantage at the workplace. Other popular sector ETFs include the Technology Select Sector SPDR Fund, the Healthcare Select Sector SPDR Fund, and the Consumer Staples Select Sector SPDR Fund. Now, John might want to grow his real estate portfolio from scratch while still making some cash, and in the next section, we're going to see exactly how he can do that. Number 5. Real estate investment trusts. Real estate investment trusts, also called REITs, are companies that own and operate income-generating real estate properties such as apartments, office buildings, and retail spaces. They're required to distribute at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders as dividends, which makes them a popular choice for dividend investors. And here's what's interesting. REITs offer investors the opportunity to earn regular dividend income while gaining exposure to the real estate market without having to purchase physical properties. Some of the most popular REITs include Simon Property Group, Prologis Incorporated, and Equity Residential. Let's take, for example, the Simon Property Group, or SPG. It's a real estate company that owns and operates shopping malls and retail spaces in North America, Europe, and Asia. As of April 2023, SPG has a dividend yield of 6.56%, and its dividend payout ratio is 85.16%. So if John invests $10,000 in Simon Property Group and desires to have exposure to the real estate sector without having to buy a house, he'd earn about $10,000 times 6.56%, which equals $656 in annual dividend income. As we've seen, the safest methods of dividend investing can be slow but quite steady. And now comes the exciting part: high-risk, high-reward strategies. Implementing these techniques wisely might actually elevate John's portfolio into the millions in just a couple of years. Number 6. Riskier strategies. In reality, riskier strategies may not be the best fit for everyone. You need to exercise caution when choosing this approach. Most importantly, do extensive research and consult with a financial advisor before embarking on any risky strategy. One way John could potentially make close to $1,000 per year with a high-risk strategy is by investing in high-yield dividend stocks. These stocks offer higher dividends than the average, but they're associated with more risk. One example we're going to look at is Altria Group Incorporated, a tobacco company that has consistently paid a high dividend yield over the years. As of April 2023, its dividend yield is 8.46%. If John invests $10,000 in Altria, he could potentially earn $10,000 times 8.46%, which equals $846 in annual dividend income, which is a sweet return, if you ask me. Another example is Energy Transfer LP, a midstream oil and gas company that offers a high dividend yield of 9.75%. If John invests $10,000 in Energy Transfer, he could earn roughly $10,000 times 9.75%, which equals $975 in annual dividend income. John can reinvest the money and increase his chances of earning more through the power of compounding. High-yield dividend stocks are often volatile. John would need to diversify his portfolio to effectively mitigate risk. In addition, he has to consult with a financial advisor to understand the tax implications involved. Now, in this final section, we'll show how John can finance his trip to Switzerland using a very risky but highly rewarding method. Number 7. The riskiest strategies. The riskiest strategy for earning passive income from dividend investing is by selecting high-yield dividend stocks. These are companies that pay out a high percentage of their profits as dividends, which can result in a higher dividend yield. However, high-yield stocks also come with more peril, as companies that pay out a high percentage of their profits as dividends may not have enough cash flow to reinvest in the business and grow over time. Assuming John is willing to take on more risk to earn a higher income, here's how he can invest and make over $1,000. One great example of a high-yield stock is Annaly Capital Management Incorporated, also known as NLY. It's a real estate investment trust that invests in mortgage-backed securities. As of April this year, Annaly Capital Management had a dividend yield of a massive 13.56%, which is well above the average dividend yield of the S&P 500. Let's say John decides to invest $10,000 in NLY. At a dividend yield of 13.56%, John would receive roughly $1,356 in annual dividends. Remember, high-yield stocks may not always sustain their dividend payouts because of high market volatility. So while John might earn a lower amount one year, he could get a handsome payout the next year. If John applies these riskier strategies, his dream to travel to Switzerland may come true. Now John wants to live completely off of dividends. Click the video on your screen to see how.